No car, driver, or team combo has ever been more iconic than that of Dale Earnhardt in the black number 3. But there were times after he joined RCR that the man in black may have went down a very different path, as well as times that the rumor mill was a-churnin'. So today we're going to look back at these old scenarios and these odd scenarios at that and see kind of what would happen, especially in two big instances. But more on these right after this. This video is presented by Pristine Auction. Pristine Auction is the most trusted sports memorabilia auction site out there with an A+ BBB rating. Auctions at pristineauction.com start at just $1, and every day there are thousands of signed items available, so you'll win signed authentic items at affordable prices. Every item on pristineauction.com comes with a certificate of authenticity from the industry's most reputable authenticators. Deals like this are happening all the time on pristineauction.com, and they are your one-stop shop for NASCAR memorabilia, collectibles, and so much more. Upgrade your collection of signed memorabilia today and get $10 off your first item when you use code Iceberg. They've also supplied me with a giveaway for you all. They'll be giving away a signed Dale Jr. mini helmet. At the conclusion of this video, jump on over to pristineauction.com/register, and for a chance to win, all you gotta do is sign up on their website using my registration code Iceberg to be entered. Thank you once again to Pristine Auction for your support of this channel. And now, back to the show. So back to it. Dale Earnhardt's competitive career started off in the NASCAR Winston Cup Series in 1979 with Rod Osterlund. The next year, in 1980, he wins his first of what would be 7 NASCAR Winston Cup titles. In 1981, in the midst of one of his worst seasons ever, he then drove the number 3 for the first time with Richard Childress. But when they both realized that Dale couldn't perform up to his standards, the two agreed to part ways on the agreement that Earnhardt and Childress would reunite when the team was ready. So say he doesn't return. That RCR and Ricky Rudd just never get this little team up to snuff, and Earnhardt has to compete in the Cup Series in 1984 with a different team. What happens to Dale Earnhardt? Well, as it so happens, Earnhardt did test a car for a certain car owner in 1983, and this owner was definitely interested in getting him to drive for his upstart team. An owner that intended on going full-time Cup racing in 1984. None other than Rick Hendrick. Today, Hendrick Motorsports is one of the best teams in the modern half of NASCAR history, but at the time, he started in the same spot that every other team does, day one. Well, in real life, Jeffrey Bodine piloted the number 5 Chevrolet. In a scenario that may seem sacrilegious to old Earnhardt fans, the Intimidator would pilot the red and white 5 car. By 1986, coincidentally, when Earnhardt scored his second title in real life, Tim Richmond burst onto the scene in the number 25 car for HMS. If Hendrick could build up with Bodine, then surely they could with Earnhardt. So by the time Richmond arrives, teammate Big E might have already had another championship or two. And with how Hendrick Motorsports performed and improved in the 80s and especially the 90s, I think it's safe to say that Earnhardt would have stuck it around in the long haul. And I'm thinking that he'd win a few championships, maybe even 7. And DEI? Well, they may have even been in a loose affiliation and a working relationship with Hendrick, like what was done with RCR in real life and like SHR would do in the 2000s with Hendrick. So, in the Busch Series, maybe Jeff Gordon starts out as a DEI driver if Hendrick gets his hands on him earlier. I mean, Earnhardt had Gordon as a driver that, if he could, would have been one of his drivers for an upstart team. So, that would be the case before another possibility that would make Dale Sr. purists puke. Jeff Gordon's Rainbow number 24 would be teammates with Dale Earnhardt. Just imagine Dale Earnhardt with his team working as teammates with the Gordon-Evernham pairing in the 90s. It would be God mode for Hendrick Motorsports, the two best drivers arguably ever on one team. And as long as Earnhardt stayed healthier than he did in the 3, there's no reason to think that he and Gordon wouldn't challenge each other year after year in the 90s and going into the 2000s. I mean, before his 1996 crash, Dale was second in points, only 12 behind eventual champion Terry Labonte and ahead of Jeff Gordon. It's really possible that Dale Earnhardt could have had 8, maybe even 9 championships and unequivocally been known as the best driver ever in NASCAR history. The only major loser here would be Richard Childress with RCR, as they very well could have not even made it out of the 80s in this scenario, or maybe went the way of a team like a Morgan McClure, who had great moments but could not change fast enough due to not having the best equipment, best drivers, and so on and so forth. But the Earnhardt alternate timelines don't stop here. There's another one that's really big that people really forget about. Even after getting his 7th title in 1994, the future of Richard Childress and Dale Earnhardt together was not set in stone. In 1995, Dale Earnhardt was on the verge of racing for Robert Yates, who at the time had built up an incredible program. Hell, he even had the contract in hand, signed, and ready to go to drive the number 88 Ford, but he never went through with it for some reason. So, say he gets the ride over Dale Jarrett. He jumps ship to the fastest cars in the field that were not fielded by Rick Hendrick at the time, as Fords were just insanely fast in the late 90s. So, just as was the case with HMS, I think he really could have won an 8th or 9th championship. I think it would be more difficult, as Hendrick Motorsports was insanely dominant at that time. But if you see what Dale Jarrett did in the 90s as well as Mark Martin, you can see it's entirely possible. And Dale Earnhardt, if uninjured, races just as good, if not better, than both of those two drivers. This is really the only team and manufacturer combo that could consistently beat Jeff Gordon as well as the Roush team. So it would have been an upgrade over Richard Childress Racing overall. Where this really branches off is with DEI. The team, like Richard Childress Racing, was a Chevy-based team, and that just would not fly with Ford. Ford would not field a driver who was fielding a Chevrolet team. That's like Denny Hamlin today driving for Toyota and then having Ford or Dodge race as his 2311 manufacturer. So DEI naturally would have needed a change with Dale Sr. It's very possible that with the Ford tree extended, Dale Earnhardt Jr. doesn't race for DEI as they're not ready to go to Cup yet and could have raced for Roush's number 97. Or maybe be teammates with his dad at Yates. Or just be a DEI as a Ford driver if that happens. The number 8 Budweiser Chevy Monte Carlo could have been the number 8 Budweiser Ford Taurus. RCR at this point was a top team and would have to replace Dale Earnhardt, probably with another Dale. Dale Jarrett, that is. So, into the 2000s, the Junkyard Dogs wouldn't be under Kevin Harvick, but Harvick would have a seasoned and experienced veteran mentoring him in his early years of Cup racing. Kevin Harvick and Dale Jr. very well could have competed against each other for titles in the mid and early 2000s. But ultimately, none of this happened. Instead, Dale Earnhardt raced the black number 3 to the last moments of his life. He won the 1998 Daytona 500 in satisfying fashion, won Winston Cups in 1986, 87, 90, 91, 93, and 94 with Richard Childress, had the pass in the grass, and became a legend amongst men. All due to signing with and staying with Richard Childress Racing. But now, I'll pass this on to you. What do you think would happen if Dale Earnhardt left RCR? Let me know down in the comments below. While you're at it, leave a like on this video, share this video, and subscribe to my channel for more great NASCAR content. Thank you to all my channel members for your continued support. And until next time, have a good one.